Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Great to have you with us on the program today. As mentioned, our guest is Roberta Marsh. She was raised with 7 siblings in Kokomo, Indiana, decided to become a teacher at age 10. From the outset, her long-range goal was to help others and make a difference in the world, developing a curriculum for children with communicative disorders, a second nature to Roberta, whose educational philosophy was in keeping with the needs of special children. Now, through the years, Roberta has received numerous awards, including Special Education Teacher of the Year, Regular Education Teacher of the Year in Tempe, Arizona. In addition, she's been recognized by Who's Who in America in Education, Who's Who in America, and Who's Who in the World. Her book we'll be talking about on the show today is called Teach to the Heart. Her website is very simple, teachtotheheart.com. All the information to link on directly, of course, at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Roberta Marsh, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program.
Thank you, Mr. Bratton.
And please call me Rick, and it's a pleasure to have you with us as we're talking about a very important topic today. And it's so fascinating, your background, and you touch on it at the beginning of the book, Teach to the Heart. Let's talk about how communication was really an important part of your life growing up. And your mother was hearing impaired, so it was particularly important in communicating with her. Talk about communication and how important that has been to you all through your life.
Well, and all through my teaching, communication still remains very important, and I don't think there's a lot of teachers that believe that. But my mother was hearing impaired when I was born, so I don't think she heard me cry. She didn't have a hearing aid until her fourth daughter was born, and she heard her cry. So she had to take lip reading classes and learn to read lips, and it meant that enunciation was super important in my house because you wanted your mother to know what you were saying. And it's true of other people. When you talk to anybody, communication's very important, both written and oral. And so I was the one that my mother chose to go with her to translate or actually interpret what somebody said and let her know what they were saying. We knew how to use sign language, and I taught all of my students the sign alphabet and told them there are times they may need that. And even though they could hear, there's other people that love to have you use their language. And so American Sign is very important too.
Roberta Marsh, our guest on This Week in America. We're talking about her book, Teach to the Heart. Roberta's website is teachtotheheart.com. The book is available at Amazon, available along with information on the book at her website. And you can go directly to thisweekinamerica.us and link on at that particular point. I mentioned you were inspired by a 4th grade teacher, Ms. Finney. Talk about her and what she did, the impact that she made on your life where you decided at a very young age, education is something I'd like to be involved in.
She taught me that the best teachers are those who accept and love their students. And I knew that she loved me, she accepted me, she encouraged me. And I think every child needs that kind of a teacher. And that's what I aspired to be, just like Miss Finney.
And it's interesting, you taught all areas that I mentioned, that special education as well as regular education at elementary and middle school levels, and that had to give you valuable insights. Talk about that, because you really, when you look at the problem, you've got this broad area of experience that you bring to the problem.
Well, I first taught mentally challenged children. I also taught hearing impaired children. I taught children with learning disabilities, children who were emotionally disturbed, and I started the program for children with communicative disorders. And I also taught gifted children. So I taught from the mentally handicapped through the gifted and everything in between. And I found that there was no difference in my teaching style because I found that gifted children need as much help as the mentally handicapped children in that they don't always have a lot of confidence in themselves. They also can be underachievers. And when I did have gifted groups, may I tell about one of my students?
Yes, please do. And it's interesting in the book, is spread throughout the book are actually students that you learn from. You've got some great personal stories in there with the students that you had. Please go ahead and tell that story.
Well, I always had my students to write a book, and maybe I had them write through me or whatever. But I had students writing a book, and I had this one young man who was a jock. He stood, more than a foot taller than I. And he said, "Mrs. Marsh, I can't draw. I've never been able to draw. Can I have someone illustrate my book?" And I said, "No, it says written and illustrated by and your name. But why do you think you can't draw?" "I've never been able to draw." I said, "Yes, you've been drawing since you were in kindergarten or before that." So we went to the chalkboard and I said, "All right, we're going to both draw a snowman." His book was about Santa Claus flying down to a Circle K, which is a convenience store, to get a light bulb for Rudolph's nose. Very cute.
Yes, love the story.
When we went to the chalkboard and I said, "Okay, draw a snowman," then I said, "Oh, you probably don't know what a snowman is, living in the desert." And he looked down on me and he said, "I have been to Flagstaff and I have built a snowman." I said, "Good, then draw a snowman." So after he drew the snowman, I said, "What did you just do?" And he said, "I drew a snowman." I said, "Yes, you know how to draw." "And what shape did you draw?" And he told me he had circles. I said, "Okay, now we're going to erase part of the circle at the top. And you're going to give Santa a hat and a beard. What shape would that be?" "Triangle." I said, "See, art is or math is part of art. And you are an artist. So continue. He needs shoulders. He needs boots. So you have to erase that bottom part of that circle and give him some legs and boots." He gained so much confidence in himself that year that he had saved every happy gram I had given him throughout the whole year. And at the end of the year, I transferred to teach sixth grade, and this was eighth grade. And I asked his mother if I could borrow his writing portfolio and the book that he wrote. She said he would be happy for you to. When I opened his portfolio, he had saved every happy gram from the whole year and put those in his album. So from then on, I knew how important. It didn't matter what grade level or what ability level. Kids appreciate their teacher appreciating them.
Well, and you say in the book, Teach to the Heart, that you found maybe a common denominator with all kids is learning was enjoyable if it was fun. And obviously,
Yes.
in this case, it was fun. He was having a good time doing this. This really wasn't school and worried about learning and all of this other in the traditional sense. He was actually learning, but he's having fun at the same time. Have we taken some of the fun out of education?
Yes, he became an author. And the first day of school, I would always ask kids, "How many like to have fun?" And my hand was the highest. And I would say, "Well, guess what? I like to have fun. So if I'm having fun, you will have fun." So throughout the day, especially fifth graders would come up, "Mrs. Marsh, are you having fun?" And I would say, "Yes, I am. Are you?" Because I think fun is important, whatever age level you are, from 2 years old or 1 year old all the way up to 101. Everybody needs to have fun every single day. And I made sure my students had fun.
The book is called Teach. Yeah, Teach to the Heart is the name of the book. The website, Roberta's website, is teachtotheheart.com. Roberta Marsh, our guest on This Week in America. Our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can log on there and get information. It's interesting, teach to the heart. Let's talk about that concept. It's not teach to the test, which we hear a lot of people talking about now because funding is all contingent upon how you do and the performance of all the students. You've just told a great story there about how a child progressed. It was not through testing. It was through that personal hands-on and giving him something that he could relate to and something he enjoyed doing. You've got examples throughout the book, Teach to the Heart. Talk about the whole concept of teach to the heart and what a teacher, how they could adapt that into their classroom style.
Well, once a teacher knows how important each child is and learns to know what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and starts building, for example, may I tell you about another student?
Please.
I had a student who was a very good artist, and he didn't think reading or math was important because he was going to be an artist and he didn't need reading or math to be an artist. And all of the children valued his artwork. and showed their appreciation by asking him to draw them pictures. Well, I thought he was 2 years below grade level when I got him. He also was in a single family home, and there were times his father didn't show up for visitation. And those are some other things that teachers have to deal with, is you wear a lot of different hats when you're a teacher. And his mother called me, and I met the bus, and we walked around at the playground. I said, I'm unhappy and angry with your dad too, but what if we leave your dad out in the sun all day today and not let him come into our classroom? And he started laughing, and he said, yes, I don't want him in the classroom either. But I had this young man to teach art classes. And I said, in order to teach the art, you have to be able to read, write, and do math, because math is a part of art, reading is a part of art, and you have to be able to list the steps on the chalkboard that you want the students to do. Well, guess what? He increased his reading level, he increased his math, and every Friday he taught art. And that's something that teachers can do too. When you know something that the child does well, use it. Use it to their advantage, not to yours, but to theirs, because they know you value their strength, and they know that you want to help them. That child would have walked on water if I asked him to do so, because he knew how much he was valued in the classroom.
Roberta Marsh is our guest on This Week in America. The book we're talking about is called Teach to the Heart. The website is teachtotheheart.com. And one important message is, you say there is hope in every heart. It's really not all that complicated when you break it down, is it? And it's something that you saw every day, literally every day, in the classroom, by being able to relate on a heart basis to get to that student. Suddenly, you turn the lights on for them.
Right. And that's very important. I think today the testing takes away from the creativity. Kids don't get to have the art. They have, if something's going to be lost, it's music, PE, and art. And therefore, we're spending money on testing that isn't needed, but it's making corporations get wealthy, and it's also taking funding away from what is really needed in the classroom, unfortunately. So it's all about big corporations, and there's a movement across the country for big corporations to take over public education, which would be a disaster, because there is not one size fits all when it comes to education. Each child is unique and needs to be accepted the way they are. They need to be loved, and they need to be taught. And each teacher can do that.
When you talk to teachers, you hear things about testing, finances, class size, time, all of that, and rarely do they even bring up the actual art of teaching, and there is an art to teaching. Is that something that's lost as we're trying to see where we're going to go educationally, and we feel we need to be competitive in the world and all of that? But are we missing the basic component there, which is teaching?
Teaching to the heart.
Yes.
That's the basic. And fortunately, we still do have some teachers that love their students, and they call them my kids. And I do meet regularly with some teachers who are still teaching and some who are retired. And we do compare notes. And I've had teachers who say, I retired because I have to teach to that test, and somebody's going to be in my room and check to see if I'm on page so-and-so at such and such a time during the day. That's not what our children need. Because all of those kids aren't going to learn every concept at the same rate. But that's what the teachers are expected to do. And so if a kid misses out, he's missed out. And he has to come in before or after school for extra help.
Teach to the Heart is the name of the book. The website is very simple, teachtotheheart.com. Roberta Marsh, our guest on the program. You talk a lot about what a teacher can do, and the first day of school is interesting because you're basically saying, and when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, this is probably the most important day. It gives you the opportunity to really reach out to these children who are probably a little apprehensive and nervous, especially in the younger grades. Talk about the importance of that first day of school and what you should be doing. And you mentioned before with that young gentleman that you met him at the bus. You suggest things like that, meeting them at the bus. just making yourself totally accessible to the students. What are some of the things they can do the first day of school?
Well, the first day of school, I like to talk about rules and attitude, because attitude is a part of all of us. And so I talk about being positive and accepting each other and how we have to work together like a family and help each other. So that's when I start talking about we're going to have class meetings. That empowers the children to know that they're responsible for everything they do in the classroom and out of the classroom. Whether it's in the cafeteria, the library, on the playground, they need to know they're responsible for their own behavior. And that's a good opportunity to talk about it as the first day. And then we go on a nature hike and walk around the school and get acquainted with the school, especially for new students. But I find that that's very helpful. And I also have a letter ready for parents and tell them what the expectations are. And the students know what my expectations are for them too.
And you talk about each class is distinctive, and that's so important. What happened last year is fine, and all of that is stored in your mental research facility there. So if a similar situation comes up, you can deal with it. But each class is distinctive, and each student is distinctive. So you're basically starting with a clean slate. They're checking you out the first day of school, and you're checking out all of them as well to find out the keys to their hearts.
Well, some I have already met if I had their brothers or sisters.
Yes.
And that's always good. And some I meet on the playground. I would have children come up and hug me. It was like I was a magnet attracting every kid that had a problem on the playground. And I told the principal once, you know what, I have to retire because I can't hug the kids anymore. And he said, no, keep doing what you're doing. And if you go to jail, I'll be in the cell next to you.
You'll have somebody to talk to while you're there, so that's good.
Right.
What about, I got a couple minutes left in the program, in understanding the environment that the students come from. If you've got a classroom of 28 students, probably you've got a whole number of different backgrounds, social, economic groups that are represented there. How important is it to understand not only the student, but where they come from, their family, their home life, that type of thing?
Well, and once you meet parents, you realize why the child is the child that he is, because we are a product of our parents. And I would ask them when there was a behavior problem, is that something that you would be proud for your mother to know you did? As I talk to my own children that way. And I think accepting their culture and the diversity is most important, and stopping any prejudice. Because if teachers will stop the prejudice, I think children pick that up and learn that from the teacher and will model the same thing. And that's why I think the class meetings are important, because the children take charge. And the same with parent-student conferences. The children are in charge, and that's how their life's going to be. They're going to have to be in charge of their own life and make the choices that are best for them and choices that are good for society.
The book is called Teach to the Heart. We just touched the surface. There are so many interesting aspects and chapters dealing with ADHD, gifted and talented children, learning disabilities, emotionally disturbed. You've got tips for parents, attitude, a number of very important topics. It's very easy to read, very well laid out. Again, it's called Teach to the Heart. The website is teachtotheheart.com. With us on the program has been Roberta Marsh, the author and a lifelong teacher. If you were starting over now, got about a minute left in the program, with all the problems teachers face in the classroom, would it have been, do you think it would be as rewarding as it was for you during your career?
It would be for me, because I love the kids and I love teaching. Teaching was my passion, and it still is. Now I'm teaching teachers who I know will be affecting special needs and regular kids as well, because most of the special needs kids are now going into regular classrooms due to lack of money.
And what you're saying is there are obstacles. You had obstacles. They have obstacles teaching now. You figure out how to get around those obstacles and get to the heart of the student.
Right. That's the most important.
A fascinating discussion and an excellent book, again, called Teach to the Heart. The website is very simple, teachtotheheart.com. Roberta Marsh has been our guest on This Week in America. Roberta, a very important topic. Thank you for being with us and sharing this with everybody. And again, the book is called Teach to the Heart. Thank you for being with us. A pleasure.
Thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
pleasure.
You're listening to This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us.